Today we have Rob Loos as our guest.
Kids are filled with imagination, and they tell stories in a lot different way than we do as adults.
Mm-hmm.
So to reach them, we want to reach them in a language they understand.
Live your faith and pass it on. Share the gospel clear and strong. Stand for, claim your heritage of truth.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today we have Rob Loos as our guest. He is the producer and writer.
That's it, producer and
writer of a new film series for children called Iesodo.
You know, to get both my last name correct and the name of the show correct, you've got double points already.
All right.
Yeah. You know what Iesodo means, right?
The way of Jesus.
You've got it already. You've got it down. So when the missionaries originally went to Japan, they used a different word for describing who Jesus was. Then they figured out if they could say the way of Jesus, it opened up everybody's mind a whole lot easier and let them accept it. So that's what we're trying to do as well, is that take the universal truth, what Jesus brought in the New Testament, and get it out to the world in a way that is non-threatening, but is a way that opens the doors for not only Christian kids, but kids all over the neighborhood and all over the world.
The audience for this is a crossover audience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We focused on the New Testament because I've done a number of Christian DVDs and videos in the past, and we always seem to focus on the Old Testament because there's great stories. I mean, it's Daniel and the lion's den and David and Goliath, but nobody really concentrates on the New Testament. I mean, Veggie went up to the Nativity, that was it. So we said, why is that? It's a little more difficult storytelling, but we really found in telling in an allegorical way and telling what Jesus did, it opens the doors. So if you're a Christian kid and watch this, you'll probably understand exactly what it is and exactly where in Mark to find that. If you're not, it's an interesting story and it opens the door for your friend to say, if let's look at Mark 5 here, let's see how that goes.
Okay, so because it's a crossover audience, that's why it's a little bit hidden in the stories.
Well, we prefer it as, like C.S. Lewis described it as allegorical, as do we. So in essence, kids are filled with imagination, and they understand, they tell stories in a lot different way than we do as adults. So to reach them, we want to reach them in a language they understand. So that in essence, this is filled with, bright colored birds, exciting stories, music, tales, and then it's the first step. It opens the door.
The bird, Iesodo, everything in here is about birds. It's and there are other animals.
Mostly birds. There's a couple other
animals.
There's
some other animals, but
we like birds.
It's kind of a bird
world. Yeah.
Bird world, yeah. And Iesodo represents Jesus. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And there are some other birds. One of them, the voice is Erin Bethea, who's also been on our show.
Her animation debut, playing Maggie.
Yeah. These are musical cartoons too. The songs are very catchy, and the animation is absolutely beautiful. I was wondering why you chose birds.
It was interesting when this project first came to me. There was a group, Jared and Natalie Hankins, who are a mom and dad with 3 kids out of Arkansas. And they came and said, look, we really don't know a whole lot about animation, about doing this, but God laid on our heart to try to find a way to change a generation and try to share the message of Jesus with them. But here, we've got a couple ideas for you. And I said, what about this? How about something else? I received a fellowship to a group called the Writers Gathering Jerusalem, which they took. I represented television. There's a screenwriter and a playwright. They took us all around Israel for 2 weeks. And just to inspire us, and we could learn whatever we want to do. And ironically enough, I was sitting on the bank of the muddy Jordan River, and I saw all these various types of birds. And I thought, well, that's a lark, and a sparrow, and that's an egret. There goes a heron. That's a hawk. That's a pelican. That's a flock of Canadian geese. I mean, why are there so many birds here of all different types and sizes? And our guide told us that basically the Jordan River Valley, the Rift Valley, is the bird superhighway. That it's 500 million birds migrate through there every year on their way to Asia or Africa or Europe. And suddenly I'm going like, isn't that a great analogy for what Christianity is all about? Some of us are big and some of us are small. We're all different colors and have different kinds of feathers. Some of us can swim, some of us can't. Some of us can sing really beautifully, others can't carry a tune. I said, isn't that a great area, a great way to be able to, to tell what Christianity is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And birds also in animation are so wonderfully colorful.
Mm-hmm.
We can go in the air, we can go on a tree, we can go on the ground, we can go in the water.
Yeah,
There's a lot of textures.
underwater.
Underwater we do a little. But
Yeah.
it's fun. So we thought, what a great area that hasn't been explored at all. And I'm like, why hasn't we done this before?
Mm-hmm.
And then we start talking about how the birds could be representative of different Bible characters, as you discussed.
Mm-hmm.
With Iesodo, when you think of what kind of bird would Jesus represent? Well, the dove is the Holy Spirit. The dove, came to Noah with the olive branch. The dove, is symbolic throughout the whole New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
We have a character named Rocky, who's a booble. Well, okay, what was Jesus' nickname for Peter? It was Rocky. Booble is a common bird, a little feisty, kind of common bird who always just sort of steps before he acts. We have a kingfisher who's a little scared, a little doubting. His name is Thomas, and so he sort of represents that. We have two pelican brothers who just are brothers that argue and make lots of noise. So who did Jesus call the sons of thunder? And so James and John become Jacob and Jack in this, and Mary Magdalene becomes Maggie. We didn't pick everybody. We used a representative group, and they'll experience birds of different shapes and sizes, and we really don't back away from what the Bible stories are. There are healings. There is a blind bird that is healed. There are a lame bird that's healed from being lame. There are birds that change. So it's a really interesting show that you open it up, and it's fun. We did them shorter, faster, tighter than most shows are. They're 15-minute episodes, 2 songs in each. And that's specific. On the DVD, you'll get a couple of episodes. But if you want, when you want to download it or kids watch on their iPads or whatever, we're taking 2 or 3 different Bible stories and weaving them together in a fun way.
Since it is for a crossover audience, and I'm assuming that people will also possibly use this in churches, how do you have anything in place to make sure they're actually getting the whole gospel?
Oh yeah. So then on the DVD itself, you'll have Tim Timmons is one of our religious advisors on this, and Tim, we do a segment with Tim that talks about Jesus and the particular stories that are in each episode. So he'll tell you that's sort of more for mom and dad, so they'll understand straightforwardly how we connect the stories to make it work. There's a downloadable discussion guide on the website that'll specifically list, all the Bible places we took from and how to share them with your kids. That's also on the DVD itself. It shows you, we sort of footnoted, but where all the scriptures can be found, we show you that very specifically.
Are you going to be releasing any related products maybe that could take children themselves deeper?
We are developing those now. There'll be a CD that's releasing later this year. We've won quite a few awards on the music already, including the Synopsis Imagination Awards, which it's a very secular award, and a Telly and an Accolade Award for the music. So we're going to put the music out, and we're working on exactly how we want to do book publishing, whether that's going to be a real book or an ebook or how that kind of thing will go. But we've had a lot of requests to do, because the artwork is pretty cool and the stories are right there, and especially for some of our younger viewers, storybook is a real fun thing.
Yeah, I just think it's so important, especially with young children who take things so concretely, to make sure that they're getting the whole truth.
Yeah.
So I just encourage you to go ahead with those other products and make sure that the parents have the resources to be able to do that.
Well, what we found is speaking of the parents, that's an interesting thing too, because it's like that's a lot of what we found is the interesting thing is that parents are reminded of what these stories are. We found this, I don't want to say it's remedial in some ways, but parents, it's a really co-viewing experience. So it's not like that cringe factor where it's like a little kid show that you don't want to watch with your kids, but
they're definitely entertaining.
Yeah, and for adults, and so a lot of the adults we get, a lot of the response we get from moms and dads is, after we watch that, they, my son asked me, wow, they really put mud on a bird's eyes and you could see, Yes, and let's go
On
back and
Bird's
find
Eyes?
it. Yeah. Well, we took it from the next step forward. So it opens the door for them, and it lets mom and dad share what it is there. I think it's very relatable. Kids have great imaginations. They don't have any problem with saying, okay, I understand where this is going and what we're representing here.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure that they get the whole gospel. I
very much. I totally agree with
Yeah.
you. And that's the challenge, and that's what we pray about every day.
Yeah.
Is that how do we interpret these stories in the right way? I mean, we're not only doing something with the best-selling book of all time, but we're doing something with what God ordained and laid out and specifically said. Yeah. And so it's a tender balance we have to walk.
Well, I can see that when you're representing the Son of God as a bird. That's a really tough thing to do. And
well, again, I take my inspiration from C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
I mean, he represented Jesus as a lion.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, he's the Lion of Judah, so that kind of makes sense.
Well, Jesus is also, a dove. So it really is funny. It's like, I think faith can be so simple for a child. And as Jesus said, you got to have a faith as a little child. And they get it. It's really interesting that they don't try to make any. They get it. We put so much layers on, and so much that it makes it more difficult for us. That if we can just open up and sort of say that's where it is. It's really amazing. It's amazing to watch kids, and it's amazing to watch how they're just not getting this anywhere else. And to just influence their lives in a moral and productive way is just such a
well, I think it's an
fun thing to do.
interesting way to try and reach the secular culture. It's very interesting. I know you have faith, and I can't remember the other one I saw. Was it love?
I try to have faith mostly every day.
No, the titles
we came out with Believe first.
Believe, that
which
was
is sort of
it.
our
Believe
pilot
and
episode,
faith.
shows how the flock comes together. We did Love. Faith came out, and then coming out this fall is Joy. So we tried to, again, make it easier for mom and dad. There's one-word titles and a couple episodes in there that are specific about what they want. You look on the box and see if that's something you wanted to see. And then next year we'll have 3 more DVDs coming out.
Do you know what those are going to be about?
About a half hour each. No. We have Kindness coming out. What else do we have coming out? Hope. So we're dealing with all sort of virtues that are.
So do you have
there.
peace?
We don't have peace yet. Peace may be coming, but it's interesting. We've gotten a lot of requests to do different things, and we really wanted to try a whole variety of different types of stories and see what really works well, what really works for kids, and there's so many wonderful stories in the New Testament, and we really feel like we're tilling new ground because nobody in the children's world has really done this before. It is
definitely new and different. Yeah, definitely. So where can people find out about it online?
You can go to iesodo.com. And if you watch our second DVD, Love, we actually have a song that'll stick in your head singing Iesodo as Iesodo. You'll never forget it from that point on. But yeah, the website's very vibrant, which is a lot of fun. We encourage you to look there and get all the resources you could.
So do you have anything for children to actually do online?
Yeah, there's coloring pages that are downloadable. I think there's some games and puzzles that are up there now. We've got some crafts that are coming up. So one of the other segments on the DVD itself is we call Natalie's Nest. Natalie, who's a mom who helped inspire the show, she spends a little time talking to moms about how to help your kids understand the show and how to work together, how to do craft together, or do some cooking together, something that genuinely relates to what's going on with the show itself.
Okay.
It's fun.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being our guest. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.